Hey guys, welcome back to the Dubs Customs YouTube channel. I'm your host J-Dub, and today we're going to be pulling the engine out of my 1937 GMC so we can fix the last bit of the frame damage, so we can really start making some progress on this build, because we want to be driving it by the end of the summer.
Sparking steel in the desert dusk, dreams rise from the brazen dust. Widowmaker, howling thrust, new beast born from the valley of rust. Hands rough, cut like jagged crows, metal bending story grows. Flirting with disaster, bold it shows, in the furnace where ambition flows. Dubs Customs, wild creations, screaming thunder, no hesitations. Building giants with no justification, in the valley colossal revelations. The light roars, nightmare steel, beating hearts that engines feel. No surrender on this wheel, chasing dreams with restless zeal. Desire twisting iron veins, passion sweats in heavy chains. Dusty ghosts, they leave no stains, on from chaos, no refrains.
So now that I've got the engine out of the frame, and I've spent a couple of minutes just kind of, throwing a straight edge on a few things and doing a little bit of cross-referencing with the tape measure, well, it's a little bit worse than I was hoping. So the damage starts back here, and I can show you how I know. Well, we did a tape measure, and it told us that the frame in the front needs to go that way still, which makes sense because all of the damage, it was pushed to the passenger side. But when I come over here and I put the straight edge on the side of the frame, right at about this point right here, it starts to open up gap. So I know that from about right here, the frame starts going that way. So I went to the other side and I had a little look, and the straight edge actually runs quite straight. Like it sits on the side of the frame rail pretty good. So that side of the frame rail needs to be shoved that way a little bit, which makes nothing but sense. The other thing that I did to kind of just, really what I'm trying to do here is I'm just trying to figure out what got tweaked in this accident. And I gotta bring it back around to make it so it's acceptable. There is a pretty good size tolerance on these frames, so it doesn't need to be exactly perfect. A wheel alignment, it'll be great. But the other thing that I did check is right here, because what I want to do is I want to see if one of those frame horns in the front is down more than the other. And when I look at it from here, the passenger side looks like it's lower than the driver's side. So when I come over here with my level, I can see that it's pretty much just right on the money as far as level goes. Actually, let me go back, and because you definitely want to match up to holes so you're going exactly straight across on the frame and it's still dead nuts on. And then when I come up here, I can see that my bubble has moved. So if I bring this up and make it so it was exactly what the other side was, you can see that this side of the frame is about 1/4 of an inch pushed down. So what I'm gonna have to do is, I'm fortunate that I've got the frame positioned right over these big I-beams in the floor. So I'm going to have to probably put a couple of rings on the floor and a come along, well, not come along here, come along back there holding the frame, and then a jack here with a little bit of heat. Let's just see how we are here. So I gotta find out how far back the damage goes as far as the front horn being bent down. Right here, it's a little bit, well, where are we here? It's pretty good. I'm gonna say that this flange right here is stopping it from sitting down. If that was down, I would say that that's pretty good. So the majority of the damage is definitely here, but unfortunately it did migrate all the way back to here. So my first push is gonna be, we need to straighten this frame rail. So right off the bat, I think to myself, if I had a big heavy beam, I could put a big chunk of steel right here with a 20-ton jack, wrap a chain here and a chain back there, and I could start pumping it up here. That would put pressure. So that's number one option. Number two option would be a come along here, across to that side over there, and start pulling it. So what I might do is a combo of both of those things, and I might add in a third if I needed to with the porta power from here. Yeah. I'm gonna start here. We're gonna set up a 20-ton jack, or whatever jack I can find. And I found this big old beam here. I would have loved to have had a big hunk of steel, but I don't have that stuff. And you guys might be wondering, you know, why a guy like me doesn't have like a frame jig or something like that. Well, it's because I'm just like you guys. I don't have all of the tools that I'd love to have. I make do with what I got. And what I got is this big old beam right here that's gonna get the job done. So my plan is I'm gonna use the arms of the hoist. I'm gonna grab that beam. I'm gonna lift it up parallel with the side of the frame. I'm gonna run a chain around the beam and the frame there, same back there, and I'm gonna put the 20-ton jack right where the bend is. And then I'm gonna add some pressure with a little bit of heat from my torch. I should be able to straighten that frame rail right there. Then we're gonna start working our way forward, doing our triangulation measurements until we find the next bit of damage. We're gonna fix that. Then we're gonna keep moving forward. And I know the last tweak is gonna be this, is gotta go up that 1/4 of an inch. So we're gonna work our way through it. We're gonna make that frame straight again. And then we're gonna be able to carry on with the adapter, the front clip, and finally put the engine and tranny back in. But if I can get the cab and the front clip and everything sitting on there nice, I'd be a happy man. So this is my rigging before I start my push. I've determined that right there is the bend. Now I've got my 20-ton jack pressed right in that spot. And what I ended up doing is I took the beam, just hung it off of my hoist and wrapped the chain around there and a chain around right there. Now I learned this technique way back in the day when I first started welding. I was a repairman, used to fix logging trucks and just all sorts of stuff. And this is one of the techniques that we'd use to fix like a frame rail or something. You know, it's very simple, but it works well. So what I'm gonna do is start applying pressure here. It's gonna kind of pull here and push that in. So it's gonna straighten what we need. And with a little bit of heat, we're going to be able to kind of control how much we actually bend it. I think I might re-rig it one more time and just raise this piece of flat bar up so I have enough room on the underside to put a straight edge. And that will really help dial in how much I actually push it. But we're gonna start small, just give it a little bit of a push. We're gonna check it, and then we'll, you know, do it again if we need to. But you guys can do something like this at home if you've got anything that is bent. If you got, like, you know, preferably, you know, that would be a big steel, like 8x8 or something. But, you know, a beam will work. You know, one of two things is gonna happen. That frame rail is gonna straighten, or that beam is gonna snap. Let's see which one happens first. Now I just want to warm it up. I don't want to make it glow red because then when it cools it'll shrink. I'm just trying to expand the backside to help bring it over. Also, by giving it a little bit of heat, it gets the molecular structure kind of racing, you know, so it just moves. It's, you know, it's making it move. And it's going to be a little bit easier to push it straight. Okay, let's take this off. See what it looks like. Now, if I've got a little bit of gap over here, I think I'll be okay with it because of our heat that we have in this side would definitely expand, right? And it would push it that way, and then as it cools, it'll bring it back, which would close the gap. So, oh yeah, ooh, hopefully that wasn't too much. You just never know. It's a dance, you know? Trying to figure out how far to go. Come on, baby. I've done it many times before where you're going slow, nothing's really happening, and then you go just a little extra and you overdo it. So hopefully we just didn't do that. You know, it looks pretty good. So guys, feel free to use this technique if you ever come into this situation where you need to straighten something. Works really well. Let's move forward on the frame and try to find the next spot that's bent. So my next setup is going to look like this. I've got that come along anchored to the floor. I just welded that piece of square tubing to the floor, and I'm just holding the frame rail from being able to raise up, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the floor jack to push this corner of the frame up, and I need to do it right in this section. And the reason why is because I can see a difference right there at the back of that leaf spring. There's probably about 3/4 of an inch of gap there, and on the other side there's about a 1/2 inch. So I feel like this here, if it came forward and up a little bit, that's going to bring that back end of the shackle forward a little bit, increasing the distance. So I'm going to do a little bit of a lift here and just make that come up a bit, and the last little bit's going to be in this back 8 inches where I'll just level it up to this. You can see right here that we're touching just the line on this side with the bubble. And if I come down here and I go right tight to the bottom, right there and there, you can see that now we're over the line by a little bit, saying that this side on the driver's side is a little bit low in that area. So we're gonna see if we can't get that to come up a little bit, and then we'll see what's left here. Maybe there's nothing, but for sure, that little bit, and I do notice that this little bit here is still kicked that way just a bit. You can kind of see it if you eyeball down, it's kicked just a little bit. So we're just about there. Well, we got one more push to do. Now that the frame has all been straightened, it's time to put the engine and transmission back in and locate it. Remember back in the day, I moved it back 10 inches. I need to figure out exactly where it's gonna be and start drilling my holes to lock my engine cross member, my transmission cross member back in. So we're gonna bring the engine in, drop it into place, drop the cab back down, put the front clip on, and then use a come along and start inching it back forward. I left the fan on, and the fan is my spacer because I will run an electric fan when I'm ready to run this motor, but for now I just need to make sure I have a minimum of 3 inches of space to drop the highest CFM fan in I can. So we're going to use that as a reference. So we're going to grab the engine, put it in place, mock everything up, then it'll come apart again so we can do all our drilling, then back together, and probably apart and together about 18 more times before we're driving this unit. So I've got the engine back in the truck and the front clip is mounted, and I've taken a come along and I've pulled the engine as far forward as I can, leaving myself just enough room for an electric fan. And the final number that the engine was moved back from factory location is 9 7/8 inch. You can see here, that was the original back hole for the 4-bolt pattern, and now it's all the way back to here. So finally, we can start making some headway on this. The frame is straight, the engine is locked into place. Now we can start rebuilding our firewall and the floor of the truck and really start to make some serious progress, because we still have hopes to drive this thing by the end of the summer. Now that I've got the frame fixed, the engine is in its final location with the front clip on. In the next episode, we're going to be able to start floor and firewall fabrication. So make sure you guys like and subscribe these videos. We're going to end it here. Like always, be safe out there. Peace.
Kustoms, wild creation, screaming thunder, no